Welcome to Military Spouse World 1-to-1, a weekday podcast featuring a military family shaker and mover, helping you navigate this amazing chapter in life. Here's your host, Dave Etter.
On today's edition of Spouse World 1-to-1, we catch up with Alexandra Brown, who is a personal security expert and gives us some great guidelines on how we can keep our families safe from those who would take our personal information and use it as weapons against our service members. Hello, Alex. How you doing?
I am great, Dave. How are you?
Oh, I'm having a blast. I'm glad you reached out to do an interview on Spouse World 1-to-1. Last I saw you in person was at the 2017 Armed Forces Insurance Military Spouse of the Year Awards, and you were a presenter, and you scared the pee-waddle and snot out of everybody.
That was not my intention, but I'm glad I was effective.
I just wanted to follow up on that because with as large of a crowd as we had, there was so little sound coming from the audience. People weren't talking amongst themselves. They were laser focused on what you had to say.
Yeah, that's great. It was hard to tell from where I was at, but that's really a great observation.
Tell everybody what you talked about.
Well, I talked about OPSEC. It's kind of everybody's not so favorite term that they hear all the time, which means Operation Security. Mm-hmm. The misconception with OPSEC most of the time is that it's about classified material, and it's not. It's about all the unclassified information that spouses and family members have that they don't realize. It really is just minimizing the amount of what we like to call open source information, meaning information that adversaries really don't have to look for because we're providing it. It's such things as deployment dates, morale of a unit, what the unit's doing or what they're capable of doing, current locations, those sort of things that aren't necessarily classified, but could lead to a much bigger part of the puzzle for the adversary to conduct an attack of some sort.
I always used to have people ask me, because I was on submarines and we were out there protecting the free world, if you will, by waiting for the president to say, blow it up. They would ask me the question, they'd say, well, operational security, you're afraid they're going to find out secrets? And I would tell them, no, I'm not worried about them finding out secrets. There are no secrets. What you don't want is you do not want your name labeled to, oh, it's been verified by so-and-so.
Exactly.
So you keep your mouth shut.
Yes. The two things about the internet, and it's a double-edged sword, nothing is private and nothing goes away. So even though you may hit delete on a Facebook post, it still lives somewhere. Any website has the ability to be hacked. Any website is cached, which means it has this long history that it's recorded on a server somewhere. So you may say, oops, I made a mistake and delete it. The reality is it's still living somewhere to be found.
Not gone. Not gone at all.
No.
So as military families, we have to pay attention to what we give out because people can do what? They can piece it together like a jigsaw puzzle?
Exactly. A lot of times the information is out there floating around as it is. We have homegrown terrorists that are living in every city that we have. Some work on bases. Just because you have a badge or a uniform does not necessarily mean you have your best intentions at heart. Over time, they will collect information to build a part of a bigger puzzle. Are there large PCSs of a certain unit going on at one time? That's indicative of maybe we're rotating troops to a certain place for certain activities later on. Travel is a big one. When are these planes leaving? Where are they going? What are they taking with them? That sort of things. I've noticed a lot on Facebook and some of the various groups that I'm in. No one will say, they're coming home at Christmas. Well, I'm glad you're not doing that. But they allude to, well, he'll be home or she'll be home by Susie's birthday. Well, what you've done for me as the cyber adversary, or an adversary in general, is I can see your profile and figure out when Susie's birthday is. So you've narrowed it down from 365 days to maybe a week. If that's the only piece that I'm missing for an attack, attack, I know that they're leaving sometime in this week, or I know that they're arriving sometime in this week. That could be the only thing that I was missing for my attack. So you don't know what the adversary needs to know. You don't know what they already know.
Right.
And you don't know what they're intending to do with that information.
Yeah. And then also, if they just want to drive terror into you, just by being able to tell people where you're going for coffee sometimes can also give the opportunity for somebody to do a homegrown attack and cause fear into our soldiers. That's something I wanted to make sure we touched upon is operational security and personal security now have become one. There used to be PERSEC where, you paid attention that you took care of your kids, and somebody pointed out something very, very true that I did not realize, but we teach our kids stranger danger.
Yeah, don't talk to strangers. Yeah, we were having that conversation. Yeah.
That's right. You and I were talking about that. You told me something that I didn't even realize.
Most of us grew up in an age where our parents told us not to talk to strangers.
Especially don't take candy from strangers.
Exactly. It's the guy in the creepy white van. It's not that anymore. Oftentimes, I work with various law enforcement agencies to teach personal safety. Most crimes these days are committed by someone that has contact with you in some form or fashion. To teach children not to talk to strangers anymore is not effective. The reality is if you're out at a theme park or a sporting event or a large area, actually anywhere, truly, a grocery store even, and your child is separated from you, there is a 99% chance that they don't know anyone else around them. So to teach them to not to talk to strangers isn't effective because if they need help, they're going to have to engage someone that they don't know. So what you want to teach children is to look for the helpers. Look for someone with a name tag or a uniform. Look for the law enforcement or an EMS, or my personal one that I teach is look for another mother with children.
Yeah.
Because there's very few parents that I know that if they encountered a child that was lost, scared, in danger, hurt, that they would not help that child, or at least stay with them until they found someone that could help them.
Right. Very, very true.
Teach your children to look for the helpers. These are the people that it's safe to ask for help. And instead of, just talking to the random man or woman that they see, sometimes that's inevitable. That's the only person that's around. But in most large places, most large events, or in public areas where children are likely to be separated from you, teach them to look for the helpers. A side note to that, if you're going to somewhere where you have an assigned seat, a sporting event, a concert, something like that, take the side part of your ticket stub that has your seat and section and put that in the child's shoe and tell them, if you're separated from me, tell them this is where we are. So that way you have some sort of location guideline for whoever is helping your child to reunite yourself besides some unknown help location station somewhere in this huge facility or stadium.
And it's easy to find inside the shoe.
Yes.
That's a great idea. To get all of this in together with OPSEC, one of the things that I don't see pointed out enough in the teachings we do for our family members is our military wants to keep the family unit happy.
Mm-hmm.
By keeping the family unit happy, now the service member has the ability to focus on mission.
Yes.
If we can prevent ourselves from being a target to that random terrorist, then our service member doesn't have to worry about where we are, what we're doing, especially like if we're overseas.
Exactly. Some of the best ways to do that are on your mobile devices. Turn off the location settings for every single app you have, with the exception of things like Google Maps. Those obviously need to know where you are to be able to tell you where you're going.
Correct.
Your camera does not need to have the location settings enabled, because what happens is if you have your location settings turned on and you take a photo, there's metadata in there that gives the GPS location within about 30 feet of where that picture was taken. So then you go on and you upload it to Facebook or Instagram or any of the thousands of platforms that are out there now. All a person has to do is, for the most part, right-click on it, and they can tell exactly where that picture was. In one photo, that may not be a big issue, but if I have a collection of photos of your child, of where you may be, I can make a map of everywhere you frequent.
Mm-hmm. And time frame, so it actually shows a a migration pattern.
Exactly. One of the things that we will teach service members is the adversaries are very smart. They know that if they want to completely disable a unit, you hurt the innocents. As sad as it is to say, most service members do their job knowing that the risk is they may lose their life.
Yep.
So there is an expectation that if they go to a deployment or even in their daily job, depending on what it is, they very well may lose their life. That's an expectation of the job. What is not an expectation of the job is that my child's in danger because of what I do, or my spouse is in danger because of what I do. We have had cases where adversaries have targeted families for certain units that do some really bad things to really bad people on a daily basis in an effort to destroy the morale of a unit. Because let's be honest, if you take a group of 100 service members and all of a sudden they have a family that's attacked or they have a child that's kidnapped and tortured or what have you, what do you think that does to a unit? That completely destroys it because now they can no longer function because they're worried about everything that's going on outside of their mission. The military services cannot tell family members you can and cannot do this the way they can with their service members.
They cannot. But what we can do, even though they're not going to tell us anything, what we can do is we can get a hold of people like yourself, or they can listen to podcasts like this, and they can find out ideas on how they can lessen their
public profile,
lessen the size of their targets.
And one of the biggest things to do is realize that there's a need to know, and some people get sick of hearing that, but who really needs to know this information? Filter out what everybody doesn't need to know. You know, I've made this comment to you in the past where we used to be a nation of consumers. We consumed our information from the news, from magazines, from newspapers, etc. We have now become a culture of producers. There is now this pressure for people to have YouTube channels and share on Facebook and have all these public personas, and privacy has been lost. Military families need to realize that they are 1% of the American population. Granted, that's several million people, but it's a very, very small population for a world full of adversaries to focus on. And one of their favorite ways to target people is through social media.
What I would like to do, Alex, is bring you on for a different day, and we'll focus in on something specific. Like, let's talk next time on Facebook profiles and what people can do to lessen Facebook exposure. And then maybe if we have time on that one, go into some Twitter and other assorted social media ways in which we can lessen our targets. How can somebody get a hold of you if they have some immediate pressing concerns right now, like they think that they're being targeted? Should they contact you, or what should they do?
If they have an immediate threat or an immediate concern, run it through your chain of command, whether it be your first shirt or a key spouse or FRG contact, something like that. Because if someone is either threatening you or you've noticed something that may affect your service member's unit, run it through those channels. If it's more of something just on a personal concern, you know, how do I protect myself online, etc., they can go to facebook.com/OPSEC for families, FORSAMILIES, and message me through there. I run that page along with some OPSEC folks from each of the services, and we are happy to provide guidance and information as we can.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex, for at least putting up with me for a few minutes.
Oh, I love it. Anytime.
You bet. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Do you like Spouse World 1-to-1? Want to support the efforts to bring interesting and inspiring military spouses into the spotlight? Then go to patreon.com/spouseworld and become a patron. It's a great way to spread the love.
Military Spouse World 1-to-1 is a BDE Productions podcast. The views and opinions of the host or any of the guests are not that of BDE Productions or sponsors. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe to Spouse World 1-to-1.